Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk went over the patch notes for the healing overhaul that is going to be hitting the game in OB15. There's huge sweeping nerfs to healing, anti-heal on items is gone, and there's a slew of new and reworked items hitting the battleground. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to catch my recaps like this one as soon as they drop, but without further ado, let's jump in. So first up, Pong gave a brief explanation of the general goals of what they want to achieve with these changes. He said they've attempted to tackle healing as a problem various times in Smite 1, such as patch 10.3 or the brawling mechanic that reduced healing unless you were in combat. Healing is pretty much balanced around anti-heal existing, which led to one of two situations. One, people don't buy anti-heal and get completely rolled by healing, or two, people do buy anti-heal and it's reasonably balanced, but anti-heal is so ubiquitous that it limits build diversity a lot because you are basically forced to build it almost every game. Thus, in this update, they are going to be removing anti-heal entirely from items. It will stay in god kits, but all items with anti-heal are being removed or reworked. This aims to make healing more consistent overall rather than jumping from massive amounts to almost nothing once you get clipped by an anti-heal ability. They're of course not just removing anti-heal and calling it a day though, they will be making a bunch of other changes to healing alongside this. All lifesteal items will be going down by between 25 and 50% depending on how strong the item in question is at the moment. All healing increase items such as Typhon's Fang and Rod of Asclepius are being removed or reworked to not provide healing increases anymore. Item healing from passives and actives is going down by between 30 and 60%, again depending on how strong the item is in the current meta. God healing will also be going down by 30 to 60%, with the reduction amount here being largely based on how easy the heal is to trigger. So heals that you just press a button and heal your entire team will be hit hardest, while conditional heals that only affect yourself or are on a very long cooldown will be hit less. Also, all gods with anti-heal in their kits will now apply 25% instead of 40%, and they have also added anti-heal into a few god kits to maintain some counterplay to healing. These new anti-heal abilities are Agni 1, Ares 3, Fenrir 2, Izanami 2, and Aspect Chak 3. Alongside all these changes, there's going to be a large number of either new items or reworks to existing items to give them new unique effects that trigger from or relate to healing that aren't just I heal more. Any items or gods that are affected by a heal reduction will probably get some kind of benefit relative to how much they were reduced and how strong they are in the current game. If the item is ridiculously strong at the moment, it might get little to no compensation, but if the item is almost never used, it will probably get substantial compensation. But with the general overview out of the way, let's get into the specific changes that they're going to be making for this OB15 healing overhaul. First up, the anti-heal items. Divine Ruin loses its anti-heal but keeps its Chain Lightning passive. It also got a cost increase, intelligence increase, and more scaling of the Chain Lightning. Linnean Bow loses its anti-heal, gets a 100 gold cost increase and a 10 strength increase. Brawler's Ruin loses its anti-heal, gets a 100 gold cost increase, now grants 20 physical protection and 45 strength or 60 intelligence, whichever is higher. With a new passive that increases the strength and intelligence by 75% for 4 seconds when you strike first from out of combat, or gains 30 physical protections if you are struck first from out of combat. If a nearby enemy uses a healing ability, you immediately gain both of these effects. Contagion loses its anti-heal, gets a 100 gold cost increase, and a new passive. Whenever an enemy hits you with a basic attack or ability, you apply a stack of Contagion to them. Basic attacking or hard CCing a target with these stacks consumes them, dealing 2% of your max health as AoE damage per stack consumed. If someone lifesteals 100 health from you, you immediately apply 5 stacks to them. And finally, Ruinous Anchor has been removed entirely alongside the tier 1 and tier 2 anti-heal components. Moving into the healing and lifesteal items themselves though, the tier 1 and tier 2 lifesteal items have all had their lifesteal reduced and costs adjusted. Bancross Talon has had its lifesteal cut in half for both the base and passive lifesteal, but the intelligence has been increased by 10 on both the base and passive. Bloodbound Book has had its lifesteal at base and while the shield is active cut in half but gains 5 intelligence. Bloodforge gets a similar treatment but also a 100 gold cost increase. Nimble Ring loses 2.5% lifesteal and 10 intelligence. Soul Gem loses 2.5% lifesteal and gets a 100 gold cost increase. Breastplate of Valor gets a new component that your own healing from abilities now also contributes to reducing your cooldowns via its passive. Eros Bow's heal has been reduced from 3% to 1.5% max health, but it gains 50 max health on the item. Shield of the Phoenix's heal and mana restore have both been reduced from 3% to 2%. And finally, Phoenix Feather's base heal goes down from 100 to 75, and the missing health heal goes down from 10% to 7.5%. That's pretty much it it for the small changes where the items remain the same but have just had their stats adjusted, the rest of the items here will be reworked in some form or another, or brand new items. Serrated Edge is being replaced with Barbed Carver, which costs 2500 gold and comes with 40 strength and 7.5% lifesteal, with a passive that enemies damaged by your abilities gain a stack of jagged wounds for 5 seconds, up to 3 stacks. Your basic attacks and abilities deal a bonus 8% plus 1% per 10% lifesteal physical damage for each stack of jagged wounds on the target. Devourer's Gauntlet is being shifted pretty substantially. It now stacks from last hits again instead of damage and has a new passive when evolved. The item continues to stack but requires 8 minion last hits per stack. Jungle boss kills and assists count as 40, giving you 5 stacks instantly. You also deal 15% bonus damage to minions, jungle monsters, and jungle bosses. Alongside this, the base stack count to evolve the item has been increased from 50 to 75, the base strength has been increased by 5, the cost has been increased by 50 gold, the base lifesteal is cut in half from 10% down to 5%, and the lifesteal per stack and bonus lifesteal on the evolution are also nerfed. This means the total stats on the item when evolved have gone from 60 strength, 22% lifesteal to 72.5% strength, 15% lifesteal. Next up is Typhon's Fang, which is being reworked into Typhon's Heart with a very different effect. This costs 2600 gold and comes with 40 intelligence and 12.5% lifesteal. The passive grants you stacks from minion and jungle monster kills, with god kills providing 30 stacks and god assists providing 15. At 30 stacks, you summon a monster of Typhon that fights for you. It has 200 plus 50 per level base health and deals damage equal to 300% of your lifesteal plus 20% of your intelligence. Your lifesteal heals the monster, and if you would summon another one, you instead full heal your current monster and grant it plus 25% max health, attack speed, and movement speed. This effect can stack up to 5 times for a 125% boost to these stats. Next up is another brand new item called Gluttonous Grimoire. This costs 2600 gold and comes with 40 intelligence, 150 health, and 10% lifesteal. The passive stores 25% of your lifesteal healing into your next basic attack as bonus damage. If you are at max health when you would lifesteal, it instead stores 40%, and the amount stored is capped at 1/3 of your max health. Next, we have another brand new item with Sanguine Lash, which costs 2800 gold and comes with 25 strength, 25 physical protection, and 10% lifesteal, with a passive that nearby enemies take 2% plus 1% per 10% lifesteal and max health physical damage every second, with a cap of 200. When this damage is a god, you reduce the cooldown of the active on the item by 5 seconds plus 1 second per 10% lifesteal. Minions reduce the cooldown by 0.5 seconds, and this item's passive damage can trigger lifesteal. The active effect lashes out in an AoE around you, dealing 10% max health physical damage to enemies with a cap of 500, and this item can store up to 3 active charges at once. Next up, we have Umbral Link, which costs 2700 gold and comes with 40 physical protection and 10% lifesteal, with a passive that splits your lifesteal healing evenly with nearby allied gods. Each unique allied god healed by this effect grants you 10 of both protections for 8 seconds, and the link only works when you are above half health. Another new one is up next with Daybreak Gavel, which costs 2750 gold and comes with 275 health and 55 strength or 75 intelligence, whichever is higher. The passive grants stacks for each unique god healed by a healing ability up to 4. Your next ability consumes all stacks to contribute an additional 10% strength and intelligence per stack to that ability. Next up, we have Heartwood Charm, which costs 2650 gold and comes with 400 health, 250 mana, 10 cooldown rate, and a passive that your healing abilities have plus 20% CDR, and each cast of one reduces the item's active cooldown by 10 seconds. The active causes your next non-ultimate healing ability to have no cooldown, but deal 50% reduced damage. Back to an old item rework for our next one though, which we have Rod of Asclepius, which, as mentioned before, healing increase items are being removed, so Asclepius is getting a new active effect that sends forth a healing snake that restores 10% max health to allies hit over 10 seconds. This healing counts as healing from an ability, which is relevant for some other items. The snake is sacrificed if it hits a target with 6 or more debuffs on them to instantly heal them to 10% max health instead of over time, and provides immunity to everything except damage for 1 second. This active effect also costs 35% of your max mana to use. Next up is a returning Smite 1 item with Regrowth Striders, the third iteration of Regrowth in Smite's history. These cost 2550 gold and come with 50 physical protection, 3 mana regen, and 15 cooldown rate. The passive is when you heal yourself from an ability, you gain 35% movement speed that decays to 10% over 5 seconds. Also, whenever you gain a movement speed buff, you heal 5% max health over 5 seconds, and this will trigger from the speed buff that you get from Regrowth. Vital Amplifier is also returning from Smite 1. This costs 2500 gold and comes with 20% attack speed, 200 health, 3 health regen, and 30 strength or 45 intelligence, whichever is higher. The passive grants you 10% attack speed and 5% basic attack damage whenever you heal yourself or an allied god with with an ability, stacking up to 3 times. Amanita Charm is being reworked with its heal per tick being increased from 2% to 3%, but the tick rate being decreased from every 0.5 seconds to every 1.5 seconds. And the lifetime is also going down from 5 seconds to 4.5, but the item will now tick immediately on being deployed. So it's now 4 ticks of 3% for 12% total, compared to 10 ticks of 2% for 20% total before. It also has a new effect that each tick of the heal applies a stack of Spore Guard. When you take basic attack or ability damage, it is reduced by 10% and a stack of Spore Guard is removed. If the damage was from an ultimate, it is reduced by only 5% and all stacks are instantly removed. That's it for all the new and adjusted items in this update though. Pon did say there might be a few items that are adjusted but weren't in the notes here, such as Spirit Robe and Hunter's Cowl, and we'll probably get the full complete notes later this week, which is also when we'll get the specific god changes, which they didn't cover today on the show for lack of time, other than saying 30 to 60% nerfs to heals and potential buffs to other parts of the god's kit to compensate. They did leave a little bit of time for Q&A on the show, as this was a pretty big change and people had a lot of questions, so let's jump into that. First up, people were asking if Regrowth Striders has an internal cooldown or not, and Pon said it won't have an internal cooldown, but it should be once per ability, and repeated applications just refresh the effect, they don't stack. Someone asked about Arcean if they would add that, and Pon said he has had a few cases come up where he felt like he needed a lifesteal attack speed option, so that's definitely on the cards, but not for this update. Lotus Crown was also asked about, and Pon said they tried a similar item in testing, but ultimately didn't go with it for the same reason that support protection auras aren't in Smite 2. Sekhmet's Scepter and Fabulous Hoops were also brought up, and Pon said he doesn't have a specific reason not to bring those, but they wanted to make some room for brand new items and effects in the update, and those two just didn't make the cut compared to some of the more fan favorite Smite 1 healing items like Regrowth. Someone asked how the permanent movement speed buffs like Mulan's would interact with Regrowth Striders, and Pon said it will trigger on application of a movement speed buff to you, so at most it would trigger once when you initially get that permanent movement speed on Mulan, or it won't trigger at all. It won't just be permanently healing you because you have a movement speed buff active. It only triggers on the initial application of that movement speed buff. Someone asked about Pele, and Pon said she is getting the standard lifesteal and healing nerfs as well as some additional nerfs because she is performing generally quite well. Gods with healing will all be getting nerfed, but some might be getting nerfed a little more or less depending on how strong they are right now. And finally, someone asked about Cerberus passive, and Pon said that is unchanged as it was already 25% Antiheal, which is the new standard, and the healing return doesn't need to be nerfed because there will be less healing going around already. Nerfing the passive would be a double nerf. But that's everything discussed on today's Titan Talk for the healing overhaul. This is a very big change to the game, so let me know your own thoughts down below, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.